Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. I am so grateful you are here today because we're going to be talking about silver exploration, but really we're going to be using the idea of what's going on in the steel industry and met coal as an example. Today I am with Peter from Tier 1 Silver, and if you don't know what Tier 1 Silver is, it's a very aggressive exploration company that has two flagship projects down in Peru. Peter, with that being said, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. Sorry, I was a lot that I had to throw out there in the beginning. And before we get into what's going on in the steel, because I've had a lot of subscribers that have been asking me about these surging steel prices and do they relate to lumber or, is it a one-off event? I want to talk to you about what's going on in Coeur d'Alene in, I think, a week or 2 weeks. I'm going to be seeing you up there, correct? At the Silver Symposium?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. It sounds like it's going to be a really fun event. Some great attendees, some great companies presenting, and I'm looking forward to getting the story out and doing some great networking with everybody.
Yeah, so I've got a lot of subscribers that have already emailed me. They're coming out. I'm super pumped to be able to see them. The reason why I wanted to have you on, because I knew that you were actually throwing a free lunch for everybody. And I thought, well, this would probably be the best way so my subscribers know, hey, free food. And they'd be able to get to know you, your company, what you guys are doing. But you said there might be some more things going on than just a free lunch, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we always want everybody to get in front of us, and so we can tell our story. We think it's an incredible story about a well-funded exploration company that's taking huge swings. They're going after world-class discoveries here, silver discoveries, and there's not a lot of exploration companies that are doing it on the scale that we are. And so we're really fortunate to have two projects that we're going after. To give multiple opportunities for our shareholders to have large wins. So anytime we get people in front of us, we want to do more than just read off a presentation deck. We want to interact. We want to take on questions. We want people to get involved. So we might have some swag giveaway. I know we have some popular items that people have spoken to before, and got to be there in person to take part.
See, and I love that, being able to talk to you guys in person, because I've explained to my subscribers the difference between, the major miners, the junior miners, and the exploration companies. And it's, we were talking right before this started, today we're seeing quite a smackdown in the paper price of silver. And it doesn't matter what your company's doing. It could have the greatest fundamentals in the world and things are just humming along. And then all of a sudden the paper price smashes down. And then we see these exploration companies, the juniors, the majors, all of them get hit. And these are, in my opinion, great times to take advantage of these situations.
Yeah, I mean, you said it, right? The paper price getting smacked down, and what's real anymore? You go down these rabbit holes of trying to figure out who's pulling the strings on these things, and it's all signs and arrows point towards the large banks getting caught offside. So they try to do what they can to suppress the prices to ensure that they're not caught off guard. But I think that's just kicking the can down the road, much like the printing of the dollar and fighting inflation as we see every day. But when you have stock markets, somehow, it sure doesn't feel like it in my sector, but the market's hitting all-time highs on a weekly basis. It feels frothy, it feels toppy, but why would people invest in a riskier sector or a smaller cap sector if their blue chips keep going higher every single day? That sentiment is going to change, and it's going to change rapidly. And the focus will come back to commodities and real and hard assets. And that's when the mining sector will truly, truly take off. And it will be unprecedented. You will not be able to get shares of where they're currently trading at today, starting with the majors, working its way down through the developers, and then hitting the highest grade explorers, which we fit perfectly.
See, I'm glad. I'm literally trying to jump in because you get me really excited when you say things like the stock market's hitting all-time highs. Well, that is true. People look at the indices hitting all-time highs, but what they don't realize is those indices are propped up by just a handful of huge stocks. And It's funny, literally today on CNBC, I'm seeing a headline: the stock market is undergoing a slow motion deterioration with pockets of shares down 20% or more. And so behind the scenes, there is a deterioration of stocks similar to what we saw in 2007, 2008, and it's bringing down the paper prices of these metals. So I'm glad you talked about that. So let's segue into steel and what's going on, because people are asking themselves, is this ever going to end?
Sure. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that everybody was throwing coal under the bus, and you couldn't get rid of it. You couldn't shed your holdings of coal. You know, I think it's a great thing because we're getting rid of coking coal, you know, the using for thermal for energy. That's dirty. We have come such a long way, even the last 10 years of advancing green energy and renewable energy as a great, you know, it's going to take over in a short period of time if it hasn't already, and fully make, you know, thermal coal a thing of the past. However, coking coal is completely different, and it gets lumped in with thermal coal. But as we know, metallurgical coal is used in steel making, and then we get to the infrastructure kind of conversation with copper as well and other base metals, and that's not slowing down.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a rapid, you know, we look at the Biden spend and what's happening in China or globally. It will be ever expanding, and if you don't have those materials to support it, then you're going to be caught out of the room, right? So we see China extending its reach, looking for that supply, and it's driving those prices up. And you know, prices of met coal have gone up insanely even over the last few weeks. So it's been incredible to watch, and that's what's going to happen to precious metals at the same time.
Yeah. Now I'm glad. So let's bring this back a notch for people that their eyes might be rolling to the back of their head and they're going, well, wait a minute, what does coal have to do with steel prices? Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, sure. I mean, steel doesn't, you know, come out of the ground as steel. It takes different elements to forge it, make it stronger. And metallurgical coal is definitely one of those ingredients that helps strengthen it and bind it together. So it's all, you know, a part of the recipe on coming up with your end product. You know, we can talk about that in so many different ways, as far as even creating cement, the ingredients that it takes to create cement to make our highways and our roadways and our bridges and everything. So, you know, it's metals, it's materials, it's hard assets, it's commodities at the end of the day. And it's hard to think that you know, there's not going to be a huge, you know, run up on commodities, and we're seeing it. Prices of coffee, and like we talked about, coal, and inflation is starting to take hold here, and the dilution of the dollar and the inflation rising, it's all going to add up. And again, I keep circling back to precious metals because there are plenty of precious metals that are going to be used in these electronics, dental ware, global, you know, renewable energy plans with solar, wind, and it's all being used. So it's, you know, at the same time, I'm cheering on Apple and these tech companies to continue to use these metals because they're going to continue to need them, and eventually that'll trickle down.
Yeah, and I'm glad you explained the the coal to steel situation, because it's way more than just supply and demand. You know, inflation is more than just a bunch of people racing out trying to get the finished product of steel, because now the manufacturers of that steel, like you said, they need a certain type of coal, other materials, and then it puts a draw on those. And since those are rising in prices, that also affects the finished price of steel. A lot of people just think it's the end supplier, the salesman that's screwing them over, essentially. Yeah. It's so much deeper than that. Also, in the flip side, like you said, with precious metals, it sounds funny, but I've always invested where I think of, what is the silent one? What's the investment that nobody's looking at? That's what I want to own. And then I want to sell it to everybody when they're freaking out and everybody wants it. It's like when I was buying homes in the early 2000s and I sold them off, you know, in 2005 and ran for the hills because I said, this is it, we're going to crash. Yeah. And I believe that silver, in my opinion, is literally at that moment. What we witnessed last February with the silver squeeze was pretty impressive. It's pretty nice to be able to see 1,000-ounce bars coming off the COMEX being sold, and retailers, you know, online retailers like SD Bullion, to individuals. We've never seen that before, have we?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you nailed it. Silver it's that perfect commodity in what I consider. It's non-edible commodity that it hosts the speculative nature, it hosts the hedge against inflation, it hosts the use case scenario, and it has them all. So gold will forever be gold. You know, everybody longs for it. There's a reason for it. It'll always be used as speculative in jewelry. It is the granddaddy of all precious metals, right? And that'll never change. However, silver has that allure, and it also has the use case. And that's what's the most incredible part about this is it really ticks off all the boxes, and it's cheap, it is volatile, and tier one silver is in the business of making that world-class silver discovery. And it really fits our kind of our thesis, our mantra. We're aggressive, just much like silver, and we have the opportunity to go up exponentially with the value of our company, much like the price of silver, if it finally clicks, right? And for us to finally click, we have to start hitting, we have to start producing and executing on our drill structures and our discoveries, much like the spot price of silver needs to blast through this manipulation and take on new levels, which I think it will, and I think we will.
Yeah, and I think economically speaking, you've talked about the destruction of the dollar, you've talked about inflation. We saw a lot of this similarly, or I quicken this, or I always have the wrong terms, but I look at this time in history a lot like what we saw into the run-up of the Great Recession. We saw precious metals prices on the paper deteriorating rapidly. We saw all the stock indices starting to head lower mid-2007, mid-2008, until we obviously had the Lehman crisis. But then after the Lehman crisis happened in mid-October, we saw the metals bottom. And then we saw them take off to a massive bull run where silver eventually hit an all-time high of what, around 49, or barely hit that all-time high, around the mid $49 range.
Yeah.
And I quite frankly, obviously I say all the time, this isn't investment advice. I believe that we still may have a little bit of a shakeout coming, but with everything that's happening economically, I believe we are about to have that same scenario happen, but on steroids, quite frankly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never one to plan for an apocalyptic crash, carry on and act as if. One thing is for certain, I don't think we'll ever stay in a massive downturn for a prolonged period of time. Whether it was the COVID crash that happened, you saw how fast that rebounded. It sure seems like in the capital markets these days, whenever there's a massive downturn, there was so much money out there globally. People are no longer looking at it and saying, I need to run for the hills, but it's like, where's the opportunity? What am I going to grab here that is going to rebound faster than anything? We saw it with tech stocks coming out of COVID. After 08, 09, we saw that massive bailout, that massive printing of money. At the time, it was massive. $600-700 billion seemed just astronomical. Now we're doing it in the trillions. Yep. Okay, that still took a year and a half before it really caught on to the precious metals. And so that money's happening right now. That bailout money, it's we call it bailout money, although it's coming from our pockets, or maybe better said, it's coming from our kids' pockets or our grandkids' pockets, could be paying for this printing of the money for the foreseeable future. And so we got to give it some time. It's not going to happen overnight. You don't send the checks out to every citizen and then precious metals takes off the next day. Give it time to take hold, and it will. So when you're making an investment, and this comes from my background of being an investment advisor for 10 years, it's invest in people. Have people that you're investing in done the right thing time and time again? In the case of our companies, it sure has with our leadership. On an operations basis, whatever kind of sector you're investing in the case of a mining exploration, that's your technical team. Those are geologists. Have they made discoveries before? Have they been involved with discoveries? Do they know what they're doing when they find a discovery? It's not as easy as you think. Can you handle the cash burn in your company and be responsible to shareholders? And last but not least, the quality of the project itself. Is it going to take you forward? And in any other sector, it'd be your product itself. What's proprietary? What's so great about it that stands apart from any other company? And in the case of our company, it's the size and the scale and the strength of our two flagship properties. They have the potential to be world class. They're not small. They're not bundled along a trend with 6 other companies. They're not trying to revive and find a pulse on a pre-existing project from 40 years ago when precious metals were lower. This is brand new, never been drilled before, world-class potential properties. So all those things line up. I've gone on this tangent. I forgot where I came from, but give it time. Yeah. Give it time. Invest in something that you trust, that do your due diligence, and you're going to come out ahead on these things.
Well, you know, I think that's a great place to stop because I think you made a solid point. You're investing in people. And I've said it many times on my show. That is how I believe. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I knew that you were going to be opening the opportunity for this luncheon to be able to bring potential investors in, or people that just want to get to know you on a better level personally, that have watched you on the internet. And this is a great opportunity for people. Again, everybody, the Silver Symposium is free to attend. You just got to get up to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. It's close, 35 minutes from Spokane. It's a great airport to deal with. And then you get to meet people like Peter and talk about real industry insider stuff. I am so looking forward to this, Peter. You have no idea. So, and I'm emceeing the event. So I want to say I'm not nervous. I'm excited. I'm ready to take this up to the next notch. Let's say that.
Yeah, me as well. I'm really looking forward to it. I just got back from Beaver Creek. I gave a 15-minute live presentation, and the moment I got off the stage, you know, after shedding some of those nerves, I'm like, I want to do that again. Right. And Coeur d'Alene's going to be my platform to do that at the Silver Symposium, and I'm excited. I'm excited not just to double down on my conviction for the company, but also to take some one-on-one meetings, take on some questions from shareholders or potential shareholders, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool. And just so everyone knows, I'm planning on being at the luncheon too, to stop by, answer any questions anyone's got. I know it's going to be pretty chaotic. There's so much going on at this event. It's going to be, there's going to be a lot going on. Yeah, for heaven's sakes, there's a rock concert. I mean, there's a lot going on. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I thank you so much, Peter, for joining. And with that, the Economic Ninja is out.